I hate cables hanging in my way across the dash and console. So today I decided to run a cable from the glove box in the RC-F to the front of the dash so that I could mount my phone up at the dash and have the power there without the cable strung across the console. This will be done in reverse so that the car is already disassembled and we will be putting it back together with the cable run. Lexus has a history of putting its USB ports in inconvenient positions. In the RC-F, it's put between the seats in the center console, and in order to use the USB port for my phone up front, I would have to run the cable across the console, which I really don't like doing. So here we have the inside of the glove box, and the USB cable is plugged into one of the outlets. The cable itself is run through a notch that was cut in the top of the inside part of the console. The bezel was lifted up so it did not interfere with getting the cable run, and just pop back down and hides the cable very nicely. So the cable could now be run very easily to the front of the dash, as we'll see in a couple minutes. The side trim has been removed, and now to get better access, I'm gonna lift the top of the console. You can see there's a little separation there, a trim panel tool or a screwdriver can pop it. At the front there is a horizontal locator, but I did not remove the console, so the front one was not an issue. With the console freed, I was able to lift it just enough to use a small drill. I think it was an 1/8 of an inch I used, and run the wire through up to the front of the dash. It was really very simple to run it through. The trim will then hold it in place up front, and all should be very convenient at that point. So we have the wire run through our hole. The console just pops down. It does not crimp the wire at all. As you can see, it just lifts right up so that it was a very neat job to just get a little cut in the edge there so the wire can just calmly sit in place and then pop the console back down. Now the mount I'm using, as you'll see in a second, is a NATO mount. It's held on by 3M adhesive. It's nice. It's got a compact base, a nice swivel head, and a magnetic mount. The lower piece was the last piece out. It'll be the first piece back in. All the pieces have a horizontal guide, which I just showed you, and then they just snap in place once you have all the others lined up. To remove it, you simply get your fingers under the bottom. It pops out and slides back. By the way, it was removed on both sides because of the top of the console having to be lifted. Here we're putting in the top trim piece. It came out second. It's going in second. It does the same as the others. It's got a locating tab at the front and just snaps at the back. So get the tab in place, push it into place, and then just tap the tabs to secure it. Now at the front of it, I will be pointing to in a second, there are 2 Phillips head screws that retain that in place, and in this case I ran the wire between the screw and a retaining tab. So I just pointed to the screw holes, and there you go. I apologize for the little bumpiness here. I was one-handing the camera while trying to get this in place. There just wasn't room for a tripod with everything else going on. And finally, the middle piece, which was the first one out, it's the last one back in. Forward locating tab, and then straight in for the other tabs. And there we have it, all done. Same for both sides. And now we have the cable nicely tucked between the side panel, the trim panel, and the console. I can wrap it around the NATO mount when it's not in use, so it's barely noticeable, and we're good to go. And here we are, all buttoned up. The phone's plugged in, the charge indicator's working. We should be able to have the music come up on the USB from the phone, although I did not check that. And we're all set and good to go. It was a relatively quick and simple job to do.